Right. So, as part of our Spring Boot microservices sessions, today I'm going to discuss about how are we going to implement multiple microservices. Because assume that, for example, we have four microservices. Like, let's say I've just taken an example, right? So, booking kind of example I've taken. So, we're in context of implementing like four microservices such as like fare or search, booking, check-in, and all that. So in order to test the application, let's say for example there is a website, right? So using application developing, using Spring MVC with time relief templates, right? So at the same time, whatever the asynchronous messaging is implemented with the help of RabbitMQ. So in this implementation, usually when it comes to the Oracle databases, will be used with the separate schemas for each microservices. At the same time, the kind of demonstrating of all the capabilities which are highlighted majorly to do with. In regard to that, it's always important when we are working on Spring Boot microservices, how setup of PSS microservices project will be. Whenever you want to set up a PSS microservices project, there are some steps to be followed. So the first thing, we need to create some table spaces and all, followed by schemas, tables, sequences, and all that. Followed by this, we need to insert the data by referring document documents which is relating to, let's say, for example, we have taken some reservation kind of airline reservation system or something as is stated. So the doc file has to be identified. Next, we need to download STS form from spring.io, like from the tools and all that, wherein to starts with the Spring tool suite, and as well as we need to select the microservices workspace from the backup. Next, we need to start the fare flight tickets by clicking the run, and as well as a Spring Boot application by installing all the RabbitMQ server from the softwares and all that. So once the installation is done, we need to check the service status uh, to run it. At the same time, we need to make sure whatever the prerequisites in context to the Rabbit MQ, right? So what are the installations are we going to do? At the same time, whatever the kind of folders are we using on? At the same time, how to start such flight tickets by right click implementing like Spring Boot applications. At the same time, whatever the kind of services which has multiple packages, and the purpose is majorly focusing on entity packages, which majorly contains the JP entity classes for mapping to the database tables. At the same time, repository packages, which contains repository classes, which are based on the Spring Data JP, all that. Next, component packages also will be used, which are host all the service components where the business logic is and all everything will be implemented. At the same time, the controller package will also be used, which hosts the REST endpoints and all, and the messaging endpoints. Majorly, these controller classes internally utilizes the component classes for execution. Last but not least, when it comes to the root packages and all, which contains the default Spring Boot applications and all that. So these are the steps which normally we have to follow when we are working on PSS Microsoft project, as far as the example of airlines reservation, etc. Right. So this is what something which I have taken. If you remember in the previous class, I have explained about the project and how that can be executed, right? So how that can be implemented, that part I have already discussed in the previous session. And today's session, I have discussed about what are the different steps which are to be taken to implement these four microservices, especially under the Spring Boot, etc. All that. So this is all about the session. So if you have any questions, please go ahead.